Hello, and welcome to the last video of the section, Understanding TypeScript and Module Loaders. In the previous video, we talked about annotations for components, views, and directives. In this video, we will use these concepts and create a landing page for our application. Let's build something from what we have learned until now. We will create a landing page using Angular 2.0 with ES6 and TypeScript using System.js as module loader. The landing page will have a header, footer, and carousel slider for our application. After this, we will bootstrap our main component and render it on the browser. Let's decide the UI components. It is a simple landing page that shows how components work together with directives. These will be the UI components. Navbar responsive header will use the same layout, which we have developed in the last section. We will create carousel slider on the landing page. We will add a row-column grid layout to showcase some website content, and then finally add a footer at the bottom of the screen. Setting up applications will not take much, as we have already done a lot of coding with ES6 and TypeScript. We can use the existing project with System.js and TypeScript configuration in index.html, and will import root components of our application. This is what we will get as final UI, having basic UI components. Now let's create Angular components and split them on UI. Header components, carousel component, footer component. Here's the template that we need to render from our root application. Navbar being the top component, which is on the top of our application. And inside the body, we have carousel component and footer component. All of these components will be written in separate folders and will render different templates and be represented by ES6 classes. This is our root application, where we are importing all our child application components and adding them as directives as we need to use them, as selectors in the root application component. So here we are importing the navbar component, footer component, carousel component, and using them as directives in the root component. For example, less than app-navbar / greater than will render navbar component in our root application, so we need to add that component instance in the directive tag of the root component. This is how components are nested to build UI. We are doing the same for footer and carousel components. These are our child components, which we are rendering on our root component. These are representing ES6 classes and giving selector with template, so after importing these components using selector, we can render these components on root components. We just need to add them as directives in our root application. Now our root component is having all child components, and we just need to bootstrap this and render this component on app application selector on index.html. Let's take a look at the code. In this demo application, you can see all different folder structures. Carousel for the carousel component, footer for the footer component, navbar for the navbar component. This is our root component where we are importing all the child component and adding them as the directive. This is the application.html that we are rendering for the root component app. Navbar will render the header. App carousel will render the litter, and footer will render the footer onto the root component. Now we are bootstrapping the components, so in the index.html, we are initializing the transpiler TypeScript configuration and importing the main.ts. So, main.ts is the main bootstrap component. Here we are importing the application component and bootstrapping it. After this, we just need to run the npm start. It will run the light server, and you'll be able to see the output onto the screen. So this is how our application looks like. Good job! This is how we are able to create a landing page for our application. We will enhance this UI further. Now we can create a component and can render that component as a directive on another. In the next section, we will talk about ES6, and JavaScript ecosystem is moving from ES5 to ES6. We should also learn what ES6 features are, which makes JavaScript more powerful.